A new report from the Federal Trade Commission has revealed that 3 pharmacy benefit managers, AKA the middlemen of the pharmaceutical industry, marked up the prices of medications that people need by as much as 8,000%. And keep in mind, these are the individuals who are supposed to be negotiating drug prices to keep the prices lower, not higher. But that's actually not what's going on here. So we'll dive into the insane report shortly. But first, let's just familiarize ourselves with what these middlemen are, what they do, what their whole role is. As I mentioned, they're known as pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs. You might have heard of them before. So they serve as the middlemen between the drug manufacturers and the insurance companies, right? And so they're really trying to allegedly keep the prices lower on behalf of the insurance companies. And then those cost savings are supposed to be trickled down onto the consumers, but it rarely works out that way. So they create what's known as formularies, which is basically a list of drugs covered by a private insurance plan. And they're also in charge of administering retail pharmacy networks, among other responsibilities. And so here's a concise summary of what PBMs do. The PBMs' power lies in their role as gatekeepers. They largely control the lists of drugs that insurance plans will cover, and drug makers compete for position on those lists by offering rebates. The middlemen typically pass along most of these rebates to their clients, but they also keep a portion for themselves. So again, in theory, PBMs are supposed to negotiate lower drug prices for consumers, but let's watch this Wall Street Journal. I know, right? Wall Street Journal. It's amazing that they cover this, but it's a Wall Street Journal video kind of explaining how this all works.
Say a hypothetical drug costs $100. A PBM negotiates a $50 rebate, $10 of which they pocket, and $40 of which they pass on to the insurance company or employer. In return for that rebate, the PBM moves the drug to a better spot on the formulary, making it cheaper for the patient to buy the drug. This transaction is important because the pharmaceutical companies say it's a big reason they keep raising the price of drugs. You've probably seen a chart like this before. It's the rise in the price of a drug in the US, in this case, Humalog, according to its maker, Eli Lilly. The pharmaceutical companies say they have to raise list prices to protect their sales and profits from the demands of these higher rebates. Here's the CEO of the pharmaceutical company Merck at a hearing on drug prices.
If you bring a product to the market with a low list price in this system, you get punished financially and you get no uptake because everyone in the supply chain makes money as a result of a higher list price.
And here's that Humalog chart again, this time with the net price, or the average revenue that Eli Lilly says they take in under this system.
Maybe there are too many middlemen throughout the entire chain that are trying to pad their pockets in this process. But the FTC looked into this, and here's what they found and reported about in their latest report. So they write that the big 3 PBMs, that's Caremark RX, LLC, that's CVS, Express Scripts, Inc., and Optum RX. They've marked up numerous specialty generic drugs dispensed at their affiliated pharmacies by thousands of percent and many others by hundreds of percent. Such significant markups allowed the big 3 PBMs and their affiliated specialty pharmacies to generate more than $7.3 billion in revenue from dispensing drugs in excess of the drug's estimated acquisition costs from 2017 to 2022. And those drugs included important medications to treat heart disease and cancer. And yes, those big 3 PBMs are each affiliated with their own pharmacy branches. So the FTC also found indications that the PBMs basically steered the most profitable prescriptions to their own pharmacies. So there's a conflict of interest here, and the FTC is calling it out. 22% of specialty drugs dispensed by PBM affiliated pharmacies were marked up by more than 1,000%, while 41% were marked up between 100 and 1,000%. Among those drugs marked up by more than 1,000%, half of them were marked up by more than 2,000%. So for the pulmonary hypertension drug, tadalafil, for example, pharmacies purchased the drug at an average of $27 in 2022, yet the big three PBMs marked up the drug by $2,079 and paid their affiliated pharmacies $2,106 on average for a 30-day supply of the medication on commercial claims. And that's a pretty astonishing markup to the tune of 7,736%. And look, Donald Trump has actually spoken out against PBMs. And last month he called them the horrible middlemen that makes more money, frankly, than the drug companies. I don't know about that. And they don't do anything except they're a middleman. I don't know who these middlemen are, but they are rich. But let's keep it real. Talk is cheap. I would not bet money on Trump actually doing something about this, but who knows? I hope he proves me wrong. And if he does, I'll give him credit for that. But I guess these days was merely acknowledging the grift with our politicians is better than nothing, but that's how sad the situation is.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really hard to understand if the idea is that the middlemen take a portion of the rebate that they've quote unquote earned for you guys. So basically like they uprank these guys, almost like a comment, right? Like it gets upvoted, and for the right to be upvoted, they're like, oh, you upvoted me? Okay, you'll get a rebate because I know I'm gonna be able to make some money off of this because of my positioning. Like the middlemen, they don't, if they're taking a percentage of the rebate, that means their money only goes up when that price goes up. Which is just a perverse incentive. It's obvious, like a rebate, a percentage on a $40 rebate is going to be less than a percentage on an $80 rebate. So like it seems obvious that they would want the price to keep going up and up because they're getting paid a commission on, their quote unquote eye for picking the right drugs and putting them on the, in the right positioning for us to buy them. And ideally what we would have again is the might of the federal government would be brought to bear on drug industries and be like, look, we're your biggest buyer. You got to give us fair pricing for us and our people. But again, you don't want that if you're the pharmaceutical company, and you don't want that obviously when you're these middlemen companies and you're making money hand over fist. It's just obvious, how perverse the incentives are in this system. And like you said, and it's nice that people are saying anything at all about it, but we'll see if anything happens.
Yeah, and look, I think that part of the reason why our healthcare system is so broken is, the administrative component of it. It is so complex. There's so many people involved, and every step of the way, people are looking to make money, right? It is a for-profit model. And I get it. There needs to be financial incentives for, medications and innovation in the medical industry and all of that. But obviously, this has gone well beyond that to the point where it's detrimental to patients, especially in the context of the United States that has basically used this broken system in order to, carry out healthcare for its people. And so I think part of the reason why someone like Bernie Sanders really shot up in fame in 2016 is because he wasn't just talking about these issues. He had a plan in place. It's just that, the corporate world, the corporate elites will do anything and everything alongside the mainstream corporate Democratic Party to squash any candidate who actually wants to do something about this broken system. And so, yeah, go ahead.
And I think part of it too, because I don't think it's as simple as offering people a better alternative and things will change immediately. I think part of it is that people do generally like their doctors. They like their primary care physician. Like if you tell them like, yo, you want to switch this up and you want to put the government in charge of it, they're going to be like, I don't know, man. Like I kind of like my doctor. Like she's a great lady. Like she's been taking care of me for years. This person's awesome. But if people start to learn the absolute grift that is happening at every single level, then people will change their tune and be like, no, we might need to bring the force and the power of the federal government to bear here.
Yeah. Look, I will say this though. The federal government as it stands today does not inspire a lot of trust in being able to carry out these, incredibly ambitious policies like upending the current private healthcare model and carrying out something like single payer. You need a high trust society, a society that really trusts and believes in their government in order to successfully carry something like that out. I don't think we're there right now. And part of the reason why is because of how corrupt our politicians are. So a lot, I think, needs to change before you genuinely get the groundswell necessary to push for a single payer healthcare system. But I hear you. I think that there's a lot of misconception out there about how that kind of healthcare system would play out. You've seen other countries where it's played out really well. You've seen other countries that have a different model where they offer something similar to what a public option would be here in the United States. What I know without a shadow of a doubt is really the core of every issue that we have policy-wise in this country is the fact that our politicians are corrupted, both by money in politics, but also by the fact that they themselves are personally invested in these industries by trading individual stocks. Those issues need to change. We'll see if that ever happens in my lifetime.
If you enjoyed this video, that's because of our members. They make us independent, they make us strong, and they make us honest. Become a member today by hitting the join button below.